Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on, and welcome back to the channel. I hope everybody's doing well out there in the old interweb. And today we're going to talk about Raise the Roof by Allison, Krauss and Robert Plant. But as always, before we get into this, please like, comment, subscribe, hit the Patreon page. Let's get a community going of like-minded people. Let's start a conversation about the music that we love and the love that we're spreading through the music. Now, Raise the Roof by Robert Plant and Allison Krauss. Now, this is a follow-up to 2007's album, Raising Sand. So, if you've done your research, this is kind of an odd pairing. And we'll talk about each artist individually for a second. But this album runs 12 tracks and is 53 minutes and 39 seconds. Now, Robert Plant and Allison Krauss. So Robert Plant, as some of you may know, was the lead singer of the formidable band Led Zeppelin and is a rock legend, and Zeppelin is a rock powerhouse. Now, I myself am not a big Led Zeppelin fan. I will put that out there. Those that know me, we've talked about it, and maybe that's a video for another time. Now, Allison Krauss is most famous for fronting Allison Krauss and Union Station, solo artist with that band, phenomenal vocalist, phenomenal singer. Now, this album and this pairing is very different than the Rising Sand album. The Rising Sand, or Raising Sand, Raising Sand, is more bluegrass, like mountain kind of oriented. Now, this album, Raise the Roof, is more eerie. I don't want to use the word spooky, but it does have more of a mellow, darker overtone to it. This album is produced by T-Bone Burnett, and it is composed. I guess the disappointing thing for me, which the other album was too, was these are mostly covers, except for one song that we'll talk about here in a moment. But that's kind of a T-Bone Burnett trademark. If you've listened to like B.B. King's last album, if you listen to Greg Allman, his blues kind of album, they were T-Bone Burnett, and it's like, I don't know, he's kind of made his staple on I won't say that he can't write original music, because he does, but he's kind of put his footprint on rehashing things in a neo-modern kind of way, which is different, it's cool, but that's that. So for this album, like I said, most of this is covers from older blues artists, older artists, except for one track that we'll speak about here in a second when I get into my top three that he wrote with Robert Plant. So, segueing into my top three. Before we get into that, there's not really much gear to talk about, because Plant and Allison Krauss are not really gearheads on this album. They use their voices as their instruments, and they do it very well. So there's not really a lot to break down. T-Bone Burnett is a very clean tweed Fender kind of guy. I hear a lot of that on this. Mandolin, which I don't think he plays. I'm not sure, but it's probably somebody else in the studio. But very clean Fender, very Telecasters, kind of maybe some odd hollow body sounding things, but nothing really out there. So yeah, so my top three that I always do um, for this album. So number three for me would be Going Where the Lonely Go. It is the number 11 song, and it's 4 minutes and 10 seconds. Now, this is a Merle Haggard song, and I have an affection for Merle Haggard. But the thing that uh, really struck me about this version of this is Allison's voice on this is phenomenal to me. This is the um, highlight of her vocal ability on this album, and it's one of the stronger cuts on the album. Could have closed the album, it does not, but I think it would have been a great album closer. So that's my number three song, Going Where the Lonely Go. 4 minutes 10 seconds, the number 11 song on the album. Now, the number two song for me is a song called High and Lonesome, and it runs 4 minutes and 34 seconds and is the 10th song on the album. Now, this song is interesting to me. If I was a Led Zeppelin, I think, big Led Zeppelin fan, this song would kind of piss me off, and I'm going to explain to you why. Now, we have to admit that Father Time is undefeated, right? So, and we also have to admit that our heroes, sometimes they can't do the things that we want them to do. Now, Plant cannot banshee scream high note like he did in his 20s, and that's fine. His voice is still iconic, and his voice is still very powerful, and his voice still carries a lot of weight. Now, why do I say that pertaining to this song? This is the only original cut that T-Bone and Plant wrote for the album, and as you listen to it, you can hear this as a newer Led Zeppelin track. Now, I know that Plant has tried to get away from the Led Zeppelin thing. Led Zeppelin is dead. It is over with. But as a fan, one has to hope, or one has to do the what if. What if they had regrouped, would say Jason Bonham, John's son, like they did for the Amit tribute show. And what if they had done a new album? This to me feels like this is close to what Plant's mindset would have given us. I think if you put this to some heavier guitars a la Jimmy Page, with the booming drums and John Paul adding keys or whatever that he would do, that you would have a modern day Led Zeppelin jam. Now, that's just my feeling. Obviously, comment below if you disagree or agree. But I really think that High and Lonesome, like I said, my number two cut, fits into his catalog very well and has a very Plant sensibility to it. So it's very enjoyable. Check it out. My number one song is Somebody Was Watching Over Me, the number 12 song, and it runs 5 minutes and 3 seconds. Now, researching this album, as I do, I tend to listen to these albums 3 or 4 times before I come to you guys on the old interweb and give you what I think about them. This, to me, is the best cut on the album, obviously, but every review that I have read of this album just kind of dogs this cut and says it's not the right album closer, that it misses the mark, and that it's kind of weak. And I don't hear that. I really love the timbre and the rhythm of both Krauss and Plant's voice and the mix on this. I think the tempo is outstanding, and I feel like that the cover version of that they're doing of this song fits really well, and I feel like that once you listen to the total album, that this is a good closer. So, Somebody Was Watching Over Me, song 12, 5 minutes and 3 seconds. That I feel like is the best cut on the album. So how do I feel about the album overall? I think this is in line with Raising Sand. I said Rising Sand earlier. My fault. And And even not being a Led Zeppelin fan, I enjoyed this. I feel like my only caveat to this is I really appreciate artists that go in and write their own material. At least give us half of an album of your own stuff. As legendary as Robert Plant is, and really Alison Krauss in her own right is getting to that kind of status, I would have loved to have heard what they would have done together in a room writing. So really, I have to give this like 3.5 stars. Not that it's bad, not that to me it was phenomenally great. Just I just feel like, for me personally, I would have liked to have heard more original material, writing their style, their sensibility, and I mean, T-Bone Burnett's production is great. I would like to have seen someone like a Dave Cobb, or I mean, even Dave Grohl, or somebody else like, I don't know, even Rick Rubin maybe take a crack at producing this duo to see what we get. As much as I miss the duo The Civil Wars, I think this fits in that category and is a good genre leading, blending kind of duo. So there you go. 3 stars, 3.5 out of 5. It's a good album. Listen to it around the house. Listen to it on the way to work. Don't listen to it very early on the way to work because it's not a very rocker. It might put you to sleep. But relaxing, chilling. We've got the way the weather is currently in December of 2021. You might have a little fire burning. This would be good for that. So there you go. So as always, people, stay safe. Keep rocking. Listen to the good jam. Don't forget to hit the Patreon page. Don't forget to subscribe and all that good stuff. And remember that music is love, and love is music. Until next time, good people, stay safe.